I found the baby book in his closet with the ring still fresh on my finger, and when I flipped it open, there it was, a photo of him, a woman I didn't recognize, and a little kid with my exact same crooked smile. My name's Matthew. I proposed to Jason last December, on a freezing night under the twinkling mess of Christmas lights we'd strung around the apartment. He said yes before I even finished the question, pulling me into a kiss that tasted like relief and promises. I thought I knew everything about him. We were that kind of couple who'd survived the messy trenches, the ugly first fights about money, the heavy silences after bad workdays, the endless debates over IKEA furniture assembly. We didn't just love each other. We chose each other. Every damn day. Or at least, I thought we did. The day I found the baby book started ordinary enough. Saturday morning. Coffee gone cold on the counter. Jason gone for a haircut. Me wandering around the apartment feeling half-drunk on newly engaged happiness, looking for the spare blanket because the thermostat was losing its mind again. I opened the closet in the guest room, the one Jason always called storage, expecting to find a pile of old sweaters or maybe a forgotten gym bag. Instead, I found a cardboard box. Beat up. Unlabeled. Tucked away in the back like it didn't want to be found. I should have closed the door right then. Should have respected the invisible "Do Not Touch" sign hanging over it. But curiosity's a stubborn thing. And love, real love, comes with the naive belief that there's nothing left to hide. I pulled the box down. Inside were odds and ends, old birthday cards, a cracked snow globe from Vegas, a worn-out college hoodie. Nostalgia stuff. And then, underneath it all, the baby book. Soft yellow cover. Little blue elephants marching across it. The kind of thing you find at a baby shower, signed by people promising a lifetime of dreams. I smiled when I saw it. Thought it was Jason's. Thought maybe it'd be full of embarrassing toddler pictures I could tease him about later. I flipped it open. The first few pages were what you'd expect. Name, birth date, tiny footprints stamped in fading ink. Jason's name. Jason's baby photo. Pudgy, bald, grinning. I kept turning pages, heartwarm and easy, until I got to the middle. And found them. The photo was tucked into a plastic sleeve. No caption. No explanation. Jason, maybe 23, 24, standing next to a woman I'd never seen before. She had long brown hair, wide-set green eyes, a tired smile that didn't quite reach. In between them, a little boy, 4, maybe 5 years old, wearing a Spider-Man t-shirt and grinning up at the camera with a mischievous tilt to his mouth. The exact same tilt I'd seen in my own childhood photos. My breath caught somewhere between my chest and my throat. I pulled the picture out, turned it over. One word written in Jason's neat, careful handwriting. Ben. That's it. No dates. No explanations. Just Ben. I sat down hard on the carpet, the box sagging beside me, the photo shaking in my hand. 1,000 thoughts slammed into me all at once. Was Ben his nephew? A friend's kid? Or something bigger? Something he never told me? The ring on my finger, still new enough that it caught the light when I moved, suddenly felt heavier. I sat there for a long time. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe an hour. I don't know. All I know is, somewhere between the heartbeat where I found the photo and the breath where I realized Jason had hidden it, something shifted inside me. Not anger. Not yet. Not even betrayal. Just doubt. That terrible, slippery seed that blooms in your chest and whispers, "What else don't you know?" When Jason got home, I was still sitting there. The baby book open in front of me. The photo in my lap. He called my name from the kitchen, cheerful, oblivious, the way he always did. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because somehow, between the morning coffee and that photo, the version of our life I thought I knew cracked right down the middle. And part of me already knew. There was no easy way back. Jason's footsteps grew louder as he came down the hall. Still whistling. Still innocent. Still unaware that the ground had shifted while he was gone. He stopped short when he saw me. Me, sitting cross-legged on the guest room carpet, the baby book spilled open, the photo balanced in my palm like a lit match. His face, God, I'll never forget the way his face changed. First confusion. Then recognition. Then fear. Not panic. Not guilt. Fear. The kind that said he already knew this day was coming, and he just hoped he'd outrun it a little longer. I didn't speak. Didn't trust myself to. I just held up the photo between 2 fingers and waited. He didn't reach for it. Didn't move. Just stood there in the doorway like a man staring down the barrel of something he couldn't talk his way out of. "That's Ben," he said, finally. His voice was steady. Too steady. Like he'd practiced it in his head 100 times. I nodded once. "And the woman?" I asked. He swallowed hard. Her name's Alyssa, he said. She was someone I knew. A long time ago. I waited. Because the next words mattered. They mattered more than he could possibly know. Jason stepped into the room slowly, carefully, like he was trying not to spook me. He sat down on the edge of the bed, hands clasped between his knees. I was 23, he started, voice low. Alyssa and I. It wasn't serious. At least, it wasn't supposed to be. We were friends. Friends who made bad decisions sometimes. I said nothing. Let him dig the hole or build the bridge. It was up to him. She got pregnant, he said. And I panicked. He rubbed his face with both hands, dragging them down like he was trying to peel off the memory. I wasn't ready to be a dad. Hell, I wasn't even good at being a boyfriend. I told myself it was better for everyone if I stayed away. Alyssa agreed. Said she didn't want anything from me, and she never put my name on the birth certificate. No money. No visits. No involvement. She just wanted to raise him on her own. He looked up at me then, eyes bloodshot. Braver than I expected. I stayed away, he said. For years. Until a few years ago. I tilted my head slightly. Still listening. Still waiting for the part that connected us. Then found me, Jason said. Or, you found my name, at least. Online. He was old enough to start asking questions. Old enough to wonder. He smiled, but it was the saddest thing I'd ever seen. He's a good kid, he whispered. Smart. Kind. Better than I deserve. I shifted the photo in my hand, staring at the boy's grin. My grin. You ever tell him who you were? I asked. Jason hesitated, then shook his head. Not really, he said. I mean, he knows. He guessed. But I never said the words. I couldn't. It felt selfish. Like I was crashing into a life he was better off living without me. Silence stretched between us. Thick. Heavy. Painful. And me. I asked, finally. When were you going to tell me? Jason's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. I didn't know how, he said. I didn't want to scare you off. I didn't want you to think I was hiding some big scandal. And honestly, a lot of days, I could pretend it didn't matter. That it was separate. A different life. A different me. He gestured vaguely toward the box, the book, the photo. But it wasn't, I said quietly. It's this life. Our life. He nodded miserably. I know, he said. I know. I sat back against the closet door, the photo resting on my knee. You don't get to pick and choose which pieces of you come into a marriage, Jason, I said. You bring the whole damn mess. The whole damn history. His shoulders slumped. I was scared, he said, voice breaking. I didn't want you to look at me differently. I stared at him for a long time. And here's the thing nobody tells you about betrayal. It's not always the lie that cuts the deepest. It's the fact that the person you love thought you couldn't handle the truth. I wasn't angry yet. I wasn't done yet. But something between us, something fragile and sacred, had cracked. And no amount of love could make it uncrack. I stood up slowly. Set the photo back inside the baby book. Closed the cover gently. Jason watched me like a man waiting for a verdict. Maybe he thought I was going to leave. Maybe a part of me thought so too. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I said the one thing that scared me more than any of it. I need to meet him. Jason's head snapped up. You wanna? He stammered. I nodded. If we're going to build a future, I said, voice steady, I need to see every piece of you. Even the ones you tried to hide. The relief on his face broke my heart all over again. But underneath it, deeper, quieter, I felt the fear too. Because love after lies isn't love untouched. It's love that limps. Love that flinches at shadows. Love that has to choose itself over and over again, even after it knows the cost. And I didn't know yet if we were strong enough. I just knew I had to find out. Even if it shattered everything. The next few days felt like standing on a frozen lake, hearing the crack spider out under your feet. Jason was careful, gentle, tiptoeing around me like he was afraid one wrong word would send me running. I didn't run, but I didn't pretend, either. Some cracks you can't unhear. Some pictures you can't unsee. I went back to work. Answered emails. Folded laundry. Laughed at the sitcoms we used to love. But underneath it all, I was waiting, counting the hours until the day Jason said he could arrange a meeting. Ben lived a few towns over. Small suburb. Tree-lined streets. Faded playgrounds. A place where Halloween decorations lingered long after October and everybody waved whether they knew you or not. We agreed to meet at a park. Neutral ground. Safe. Jason was jittery the whole drive, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel, clearing his throat every 5 minutes. I just watched the road. When we pulled into the lot, my palms went cold. There, by the swings, stood a woman short, stocky, dark-haired, pushing a boy on the swing with easy, practiced hands. Ben. He was older now than he'd been in the photo. Maybe 8, maybe 9. But God help me, the smile was still the same. My smile. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Jason parked. Killed the engine. Gripped the wheel like he wanted it to anchor him to the moment. You sure about this? He asked. No, I said honestly. But we're here. He nodded. Opened the door. I followed him across the lot, heart thudding so hard it rattled my ribs. The woman saw us coming and waved. Jason waved back, a stiff, almost guilty motion. Ben slowed the swing with his sneakers, craning his neck around to see who was arriving. His face lit up when he saw Jason. And here's the part one wasn't ready for. He didn't hesitate. He sprinted across the mulch, straight to Jason, and flung his arms around his waist. Jason hugged him back like it hurt. Hey, buddy, he said, voice tight. Ben leaned back, grinning. You're early, he said. Jason chuckled, ruffling his hair. Had a good reason. He turned to me then, one hand resting on Ben's small shoulder. Ben, this is Matt, he said carefully. Matt's really important to me. Ben squinted up at me, studying my face. You look like me, he said, grinning. I blinked. Jason froze. The woman, who I later learned was Ben's guardian, a second cousin of Alyssa's, smiled awkwardly. Kids, huh, she said. They see everything. I crouched a little to get eye level with Ben. Yeah, I said, forcing a smile. Yes, we're both good looking, huh? Ben giggled, hiding behind Jason's leg. I stood back up, heart hammering, head spinning. We spent the next hour making small talk about school, favorite superheroes, soccer practice. Ben was bright, energetic, a little shy but quick to warm up. And the more time I spent with him, the more the ache in my chest grew. He wasn't just a ghost from Jason's past. He was a living, breathing piece of Jason's life, a piece I hadn't even known existed until I tripped over it. At one point, Ben was climbing the jungle gym when the guardian, Denise, pulled me aside. You didn't know about him, huh? She said softly, out of earshot. I shook my head. She looked at me for a long moment. Jason loves him, she said. Always has. But... She trailed off. But what? I pressed. She hesitated, then said, carefully. He didn't always know how to show it. I frowned. Denise watched Ben scrambling up a slide, her expression unreadable. There was a lot of back and forth, she said. Visits, missed visits. Promises made, broken. He was young, stupid, scared. I nodded slowly, the puzzle pieces rearranging themselves in my head. Jason hadn't just hidden Ben from me. He'd hidden his own shame, his own failures. And now here, in this sleepy park under a November sky, I was standing face to face with the parts of him he never wanted me to see. The messy parts. The parts that didn't fit neatly into the future we were building. The parts that scared him enough to lie by omission. When the sun started dipping low and the air turned sharp with evening chill, Jason called Ben over. We should get going, he said. Homework, right? Ben groaned dramatically but nodded. He turned to me. Will you come next time too? He asked, shyly. I looked at Jason. Jason looked at me. Everything in his face was hope and fear and apology. I smiled at Ben, real this time. If it's okay with you, I said. Ben grinned. It's okay. He raced ahead to the car, dragging Denise with him. Jason and I stood there for a long beat, watching them go. You didn't have to come, Jason said finally. I did, I said. You could still leave, he said, voice rough. I shrugged. Maybe, I said. But not today. Jason turned to me then, really turned, and in his eyes, I saw it all. The love, the guilt, the desperate, aching hope that maybe, just maybe, I could forgive what he was too afraid to confess. I didn't know the answer yet. Didn't know if love alone could bridge the space between what we were and what we now knew. But I knew this. If you're lucky, really lucky, sometimes love doesn't run when it's hurt. Sometimes it stays. Limping. Bleeding. But stays anyway. The ride home was quiet. Jason kept glancing at me like he was bracing for impact. Like he expected me to reach for the door at any second, tuck and roll onto the highway, leave him and all his broken pieces behind. I didn't. But I didn't reach for his hand, either. The space between us was thick with everything unsaid. When we pulled into the driveway, he killed the engine but didn't move. Just sat there, fingers tapping an anxious rhythm against the steering wheel. I need to tell you the rest, he said, voice barely above a whisper. I looked at him. Waited. I didn't just hide Ben from you, he said. There's more. Of course there was. There's always more when you start digging. He turned toward me fully now, hands trembling slightly in his lap. Alyssa's gone, he said. She died. The words hit like a punch to the sternum. I blinked. When? Almost 2 years ago, he said. Accident. Car crash. Single vehicle. They think she fell asleep at the wheel. He rubbed his hands over his face, like he could scrub the memory away. I didn't know right away, he said. We weren't in regular contact. Denise called me after the funeral. Told me Ben needed more than weekend visits. Needed something permanent. I stared at him. Cold realization slowly settling in my chest. You were supposed to take him, I said. He nodded miserably. I wanted to, he said. God, Matt, I wanted to. But I wasn't ready. I was a mess. My job was barely holding on. I was still drinking too much on weekends, still pretending I wasn't broken inside. He swallowed hard. I thought he'd be better off with Denise. Stability. School. A house that didn't feel like it might fall apart if somebody slammed the door too hard. I leaned back against the seat, staring at the ceiling of the car like maybe the answers were written there. You didn't even tell me, I said, voice hollow. You didn't even give me the chance to be there. I know, he said, eyes glistening. I know. And now? I asked, heart pounding. He hesitated. That was my answer before he even spoke. Denise is moving, he said. Across the country. New job. New life. She's not his legal guardian, just family who stepped in after Alyssa passed, and she can't take Ben with her. I closed my eyes. God help me. I already knew where this was going. Jason's voice cracked on the next words. She's giving me a choice, he said. Step up, or let him go into the system. Silence. Long and brutal. He's my son, Matt, Jason whispered. I want to do right by him. I want to be better. But I'm scared. And I can't do it alone. The final piece fell into place then. The reason he proposed so suddenly. The reason he pushed so hard to fast-track our future. It wasn't just about love. It was about survival. He needed me. Not just as a partner, but as a co-parent. As a lifeline. I sat there, the engagement ring on my finger heavy as a cinder block. I loved Jason. I loved the life we were building. But loving someone and being ready to rebuild their past are two different things. Two different mountains. And I wasn't sure if my heart, already bruised by the lies, was strong enough to climb both. Jason was staring at me now, silent, waiting, terrified. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked, softer now. Because I wanted you to say yes, he said, voice breaking. I wanted one thing to be simple. I nodded slowly. Because that was it, wasn't it? The tragedy of loving a man like Jason. The tragedy of loving anyone who's been broken hard and early. You don't just get their smiles and promises. You get their fear. You get their ghosts. You get the mess they're terrified you'll leave them for. I closed my eyes and thought about Ben's smile. Thought about the way he looked at Jason with hope instead of judgment. Thought about the way he looked at me, curious, trusting, like I already belonged there. And I realized something that shook me to my core. Love isn't about building the perfect life. It's about choosing the messy one. Eyes open, hands steady, and calling it home anyway. I opened my eyes. Turned to Jason. Met his fear head on. I'm not leaving, I said. The relief on his face was so raw it almost hurt to look at. But, I added, holding up a hand, this isn't something I'm jumping into blind. He nodded quickly. Anything. Whatever you need. I need honesty, I said. No more secrets. No more half-truths. If we do this, we do it the hard way. The real way. He nodded again, fiercely, like he was afraid if he blinked I might disappear. And Jason. Yeah. I need time, I said. Time to get there. Time to be sure. He smiled then shaky, broken, but real. I'll wait, he said. And for the first time since I found that baby book, I believed him. The first time Ben came to our apartment for a whole day, it felt less like building a new family and more like opening a door to a room I wasn't sure I belonged in yet. Jason spent the whole morning cleaning, vacuuming corners no one would ever notice, rearranging furniture for maximum kid space, setting out snacks like we were hosting royalty. I tried to help, but mostly I just moved things from one surface to another, nerves buzzing under my skin like bees. At 10 a.m. sharp, Denise pulled into the driveway. Ben tumbled out of the back seat, backpack slung over one shoulder, a battered stuffed dinosaur peeking out from the zipper. Jason opened the door before they could even knock. Hey, buddy, he said, crouching down. Ben grinned and launched himself into Jason's arms without hesitation. Watching them, I felt something twist deep inside me, part awe, part fear, part aching hope. Jason introduced me again, properly this time. No awkward half-truths. No tightrope walking explanations. "This is Matt," he said. "He's my family. And if you want, he can be your family too." Ben looked up at me, squinting against the sun. "You got snacks?" he asked. I laughed, the sound surprising even myself, and stepped aside to let them in. "Come on in, kid," I said. "We've got snacks for days." It was clumsy, at first. Ben was polite but shy, sticking close to Jason like a shadow. I hovered at the edges, trying not to push too hard, trying not to feel like an intruder in my own home. We played board games. We made sandwiches. We built a lopsided fort out of couch cushions and bedsheets. Ben told me all about his favorite superhero, not the new Spider-Man, the real Spider-Man, his favorite subject at school, recess, and his dream job, professional dinosaur hunter. And somewhere between the second round of Connect 4 and an argument about how much cheese is too much cheese on a sandwich, something shifted. Ben stopped looking at me like I was a stranger. Started looking at me like I was his. By mid-afternoon, he was sitting cross-legged on the living room rug, building a Lego city while Jason napped on the couch, one arm draped over his eyes. I sat down beside him, careful not to knock over a precarious tower he was working on. Ben glanced at me. "Thoughtful? Are you going to marry Jason?" he asked, voice casual, like he was asking if I was planning to have pizza for dinner. I swallowed hard. "I asked him to," I said carefully. "And he said yes." Ben nodded, focused on his Legos. "Cool," he said. Then, without looking up, "You gonna be my dad too?" The air left my lungs so fast I felt dizzy. I looked over at Jason, still asleep, oblivious to the nuclear bomb his kid just dropped in the middle of the room. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. Ben nodded like that made sense. "It's okay," he said. "You don't have to be perfect. Just gotta stay." I blinked hard against the sudden sting in my eyes. Out of the mouths of babes, right? I ruffled his hair gently, and he leaned into it without hesitation. And just like that, the last of the walls between us crumbled. Later, when Denise came to pick him up, Ben hugged Jason tight, then turned and hugged me too, small arms squeezing fiercely around my waist. "You're good," he said into my jacket. "I like you." I ruffled his hair again and whispered, "I like you too, kid." When the door closed behind them, Jason sat back down on the couch with a heavy sigh. "Thank you," he said, voice thick with emotion. I shrugged, pretending my heart wasn't a wrecked cathedral inside my chest. "It's not charity," I said. "It's choice." Jason nodded, eyes shining. "I love you," he said. "I know," I said. "I love you too." But love wasn't the question anymore. Love was the easy part. The real question was whether love could carry the weight of the brokenness we both carried. Whether it could survive the cracks, the missing years, the guilt. Whether it could choose to stay, even when staying meant stepping into a life already halfway built without me. I didn't know the answer yet. Not fully. But for the first time since I found that baby book, I didn't feel like a visitor in my own future. I felt like a man standing in the messy, complicated middle of it. And quietly, fiercely, choosing it anyway. Part 6. It didn't happen all at once. There was no grand speech. No perfect moment where all the doubts vanished like mist. It happened slowly. Quietly. The way trees learn to trust spring after every long winter. A week after Ben's first visit, Jason sat me down at the kitchen table, that same battered table we'd bought secondhand when we first moved in together, still scarred with coffee rings and knife nicks and memories. He set a manila envelope in front of me. Didn't say anything. Just pushed it across the table with trembling hands. I opened it. Inside were adoption forms. Blank. And signed. He wasn't pushing me. He wasn't assuming. He was giving me the choice he hadn't given me before. I stared at them for a long time, the weight of them settling into my bones. "This isn't a proposal," he said quietly. "It's not a plea. It's just a door. You can walk through it. Or not. And I'll still love you either way." I looked up at him then. Saw the fear. The hope. The man who knew he was offering something broken and loved me enough not to lie about it. I set the papers down, reached across the table, took his hand in mine. "I'm not signing anything today," I said. I felt his heart sink under my palm. "But not because I'm walking away," I added. He blinked, confused. "I'm staying," I said. "Not because I have to. Not because you need me to. But because I choose to." I squeezed his hand. "We're gonna build this right," I said. Slow. Honest. Brick by brick. Jason swallowed hard. Okay, he whispered. And in that small, broken whisper, I heard everything he didn't know how to say. Thank you. I'm sorry. I love you. Please stay. We didn't fill out the papers that day. We didn't rush to fix everything with a signature. Instead, we started smaller. We started with Sunday mornings, pancakes, and spilled syrup and Lego City sprawling across the living room floor. We started with messy, imperfect dinners where Ben declared himself president of chicken nuggets and Jason laughed so hard he cried. We started with bedtime stories and soccer practices, and the first time Ben called me Dad, without thinking about it, a casual, sleepy murmur as he hugged me goodnight. I didn't correct him. I just hugged him back. And Jason, standing in the doorway, watching, didn't say a word. Didn't have to. We were building something. Not the life we thought we wanted. Not the life that fit neatly into Instagram squares and holiday cards. Something better. Something real. Something that could survive cracks and storms and hard, unspoken truths. One night, after Ben had fallen asleep and the house was finally quiet, Jason pulled me out onto the porch. The sky was clear, stars spilling across it like confetti. We stood there for a while, not touching, not speaking, just breathing in the cool night air. Finally, he said, almost shyly, "You think we're going to be okay?" I thought about it. About everything we'd lost. Everything we'd found. About the boy sleeping in the room down the hall, and the man standing next to me, and the stubborn, defiant love that refused to give up even when it had every reason to. I smiled, small and real. "We're already okay," I said. And I meant it. Because life doesn't wait for you to be ready. It doesn't hold still while you make up your mind. It throws you into the deep end, hands you the pieces, and says, build something. And if you're lucky, if you're brave, you do. Even when it's messy. Even when it's terrifying. Even when your hands are shaking. You build. Brick by crooked brick. Until one day, you look around and realize. You didn't just survive. You built a home. A real one. Cracks and all.